just how we're wired. Those of you who are really grounded in reality, I call you sensing types in the Myers-Briggs scheme of things, sensing. Uh, that may not come easy for you, but we'll work on it, okay? And thirdly, I think we need, the top of our list, to be thinking about what is the significance of my story, right? What's the universal truth? What's the lesson to be learned? What do I want other people to take away from my story? You know, that's what literature is all about. And that's why we read stories. We want to connect with other human beings and have shared experiences. A big part of it is we want to realize, am I normal? Oh, I read this story and they felt the same way. Yeah, I'm normal. You know, we just want to connect, right? That human experience. But think about those as you write. And maybe just to answer this question, okay, I'm not the best story writer, but what should I really be focusing on? Hey, it never hurts to focus on the setting. When was it? Where was it? What was the weather like? What town did this occur in your story? How old were you? Were you in school? Think about that as you write. Now, here's where I'm giving you lots of creative license, okay? Some of you may be thinking about something from when you were 9. You're like, oh, I don't remember who was there. What was it? That's okay. You can embellish. That's okay. We have literary license to do that, okay? I wrote a short story. I had the same assignment when I was in college. I wrote a short story about when I was in 3rd grade. And in my story, I mentioned 2 friends that were with me. In reality, there were about, 6 or 7 of us. But as you think about key people, y'all, don't muddy the waters with too much. Just do what's necessary, okay? And when I talk about key people, people that are necessary for the action to move forward, or the plot, or the understanding. If there were other people in real life in your story, that's okay. We don't have to include everybody, okay? Just the key people. That's what I'm saying. Wow, it was so long ago, Skip, I don't even remember what was said. That's okay. We have literary license to embellish that. That's okay. I'm not going to get on the phone and call your parents and go, is this true? Okay? And I know a lot of people feel weird about that, like I have to be totally accurate. No, you don't. We're more about the message on your story rather than are you accurate on all the details? Who was there? Who said what? That's literary license, okay? And really try to focus on what happened. If you're the type of person that feels like I go off on rabbit trails when I tell a story, okay, then try to stick with what happened, okay? And yeah, again, the significance of your story. What's the universal truth? What's the message you're trying to get across, okay? So this one has to do with the time that you realized the world is not fair, or you were reminded, that the world was not fair. Y'all, your story doesn't have to be serious. It could be humorous. It could be something that may at the time was embarrassing for you. That's okay. Some of you are going to turn in stories that are very serious and deep. That's okay. When I see a whole lot of that in a class, I always go, I'm never doing this assignment again. Because some of us are dealing with some deep stuff. You're safe to turn that stuff into me. It's not going anywhere, right? A couple of years ago, I had a woman in this class wrote about a time when she was 9, and she was walking home from school and happened upon a man assaulting her neighborhood friend behind the house. and she ran and screamed and hit him, and he took her and got in his truck and started driving away, like he was abducting her then. And she said, all I knew is I did not want to go with this guy. And she jumped over, grabbed the steering wheel, and caused him to run into a house, boom, with his truck, and she got away. And I realized, and she told me later, I've not told this story, really thought about it, expressed it, since the cops interviewed me when I was 9. And she said it was tough, but she said this was very cathartic for me, to make sense of that, tell it, But you don't have to. You could be humorous. Yours could be like Sammy's story. Maybe it's just, but there's a message in there, right? That's okay. Sometimes ethical dilemmas make us realize that the world is not always fair, right? Some of y'all may have heard this story, but my first job right out of grad school, I was the director of rec sports at this university. I was in charge of the gym, the weight room, all rec sports and everything. One of the things, because we were in Oklahoma, every year I put on an intramural rodeo. It was a rodeo for people that weren't cowboys, right? You didn't need a horse. Sometimes they call it a horseless rodeo. But it was fun. We had so much fun for guys and girls both. So I contracted with this stock contractor, and the night before the rodeo, he called me at home and he goes, hey, I just delivered all the stock. They're in the pens. Just wanted you to know we're good. I'm like, okay. Later that same night, I get a phone call from a football coach. One of my guys that worked for me was an assistant football coach on the side. And apparently, all the football coaches were goofing around and went out there and were looking at the bulls, and they dared my guy to get on a bull. And one of the guys had a bull rigging in the trunk of the car, go figure. And they put it on the bull, they put Mike on the bull, and Mike gets dumped off, and they're like, you gotta do it again, and they get the bull back in there and get Mike on. The second time he got dumped off, the bull stepped right on his back, broke his back. So this coach has called me, he goes, I need you to come up to the field house, we gotta talk to you, And so I go up there, it was every football coach, they had a chair in the middle of the room, they go, sit down. And they circled around me and they go, you have got to tell the university president that you sent Mike out there to test the stock. And I'm like, but I didn't. And they go, he doesn't have insurance. But if you say that, he'll be covered by school insurance. I'm like, y'all, I can't. And they set me there for like 2 hours just hammering me with, you gotta do this, you gotta do this.
You did eventually.
No, I didn't. I was scared to death. I was more scared of the university president being fired for lying than I was of those guys, but sometimes we do the right thing and we still feel bad, though. I felt bad for Mike. He was married with 2 kids, had no insurance, broken back, laid up in the hospital. I did go see him. That's terrible, but that's an ethical dilemma, and sometimes that makes us realize, well, it's not always fair, is it, Something you found difficult or challenging, and y'all, this doesn't have to be a story about way back when I was 9. It might be something that happened a couple of months ago. Good. You decide, right? Yeah, but it could be a memory from your childhood. Got to think about those things, kind of brainstorm those out, okay? When it comes to the significance, though, I keep hammering that, your story needs some level of significance, some universal message. Again, what do you want other people to walk away with if they were to read your story? What do you want to leave them thinking about? What do you want them to connect with, right? Sometimes we do that whole moral to the story. The lesson is don't eat bugs, or whatever. Sometimes we phrase it like a moral to the story, lesson learned. Here's a good litmus test of whether is it that significant. The thing you're writing about, did it change the way you chose to live your life? Or did it change your outlook on life? Or did it wise you up? That's kind of a telltale thing of, ooh, this was pretty significant. Or did it create a core value for you? Good questions to ask, okay? Let's talk about description. A good well-told story has details, okay? The tricky thing for, I think, all of us as writers is, when do I need details and when do I need to back off? When am I giving details about the wrong things, you know? What is actually essential? Because remember, it's through details. The five senses, y'all. What did it look like? What did it sound like? How did it taste? How did it smell? What did it feel like? That's how we get our reader to walk in our shoes. There's no other way to do it. We got to use description and detail, okay? Here's a fact. That's going to put them in your shoes, okay? So when it comes to description, specific details about what? Well, again, yeah, what something looks like, how something feels. And remember, y'all, that one can be on two different levels. Maybe something physically feels a certain way, or we have internal feelings, right? How something sounds, smells, you get it. But here's what I tend to see, okay? If it's that important and you want to put your reader in your shoes, maybe there's times in your story that you can focus more on how does something look, okay? Oh, yeah, sorry. Here we go. Let's talk about appearance. You could write, and this would be so easy, and this is how most of us write. My dad owned a red Corvette. I just calls it how I sees it. Not a lot of vivid detail there, right? Not a lot of description. But if this car is so central to your story, and you really want to go a little deeper with that, what about something like this? My dad owned a Corvette that was as red as the flames from the very pit of hell. Some people read that and go, oh yeah, I've seen that car. That's awesome. You see how that benefits from a little more detail? If it's an important component to your story. I would go with that second one, you know. First one's easy. That's easy to write that way. And I get it. Some of you are wired that way. You're just very realistic. It was a red Corvette. Let's move on, you know. But think about these things. What about, oh, this is on appearance too. And actually describing someone, he was boring. Well, if that character, the he, is important to your story, and maybe the whole story hinges on how boring he was, maybe we need to go into a little detail about that. This would be so much cooler. He was so boring that if you put him in a room with a bowl of Jell-O, the bowl of Jell-O would be statistically more likely to say or do something interesting. Yeah, I'd go with that one. What about when it comes to feeling or feelings? It would be very easy to go, it was very cold that day. That's easy. But if it's important to the story, the coldness has everything to do with your story. What about something like this? That particular day was the kind of cold where your breath would exhale as a puff of smoke, then turn to snowflakes and fall to the ground. We've all been in those days, right? I call it 0 degree booger freeze temperature, where you walk outside and go, ooh, I can't even breathe. What about the feelings, though, when we're trying to express how we felt, right? It would be very easy to write this, I felt bad. I pushed my friend off the cliff, and then I felt bad. What about this one, when someone makes you feel bad? What about this? I felt like a linebacker hit me in the stomach and took my lunch money. Oh, anybody ever had that feeling like, oh, it's the worst day ever? As far as sounds, maybe that's important to your story. Yeah, this is easy. It was very loud. Does that just really put the reader in your shoes? I think this does. It sounded like I was sitting in the front row at a death metal concert. Ah, that loud. It matters sometimes, right? And then as far as, I don't know when we would ever write about smell, I don't know, or taste, but you might. It's easy to write, it smelled very bad. But if you kick it up with some details, if that is important. It smelled like someone had left a raw chicken in the trunk of a car for 3 weeks in July. True story.
Oh my God.
Yo, my wife borrowed my brother-in-law's truck many years ago. And she went to the grocery store and she put all the groceries in the back, in those plastic bags. And she bought a whole raw chicken, right? Well, I guess she hit the brakes at one point. Some of the groceries rolled up under his toolbox. And when she got home, she's digging all that out, but she missed the chicken.
Hmm.
And it was the middle of July. Sometime later, my brother-in-law was like, why's my truck stink so bad? And he found a chicken. Really feel like my reader really needs to walk my shoes on this part. Go a little deeper on the description, okay? Let's talk about dialogue. I'm not making that a requirement. Some of you will do fine without using dialogue. I like it. At least try. If it doesn't work for you, scrap it. But I would like to see all of you try to insert some dialogue in there, okay? Dialogue, again, that's when someone's speaking, right? Or maybe we write in a way to what we're thinking and we want to put quotes around it, like we were saying it, but sometimes it's thoughts. That's okay too. But that's how we set aside dialogue, with the double tick marks, right? Here's some things to think about. Be sure your written dialogue that gets to the point. Don't just insert dialogue to insert it. A couple of years ago, we were doing this very assignment. I get a rough draft from one of my students. He went way over the page down. At the time, I think I had it topped out at 4 pages. He hands in 7 pages to me, and I was like, so I'm reading it. It was a story about his granddad took him on a bear hunting trip, and it had a lot of dialogue, but the dialogue went like this. What are you doing, Grandpa? I asked. Nothing, Grandpa replied. I laughed. Ha ha ha. Grandpa laughed. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, don't shoot the bear, shoot me. I do not want to read this story. Make sure it has purpose and leads somewhere, right? Make sure it gets to the point. Yeah, avoid that rambling dialogue that serves no purpose. What are you doing, Grandpa? Poor guy. Very often we can use dialogue to reveal key character information. I wish I had a good example of that, but I don't. You can use dialogue to drive the plot of your story. Instead of you having to take the time to write a paragraph about what's going on, sometimes, boom, through dialogue, the characters do that for you. Whatever words you put in their mouths, right? Man, third thing about dialogue, awesome opportunity to express mood or emotion, okay? Here's what I mean by that. You might every day read something like that. I really don't feel like going, she said. Here's the part I want to focus on. There's your opportunity. One word. And some of you, pay attention how many times you use this as you wrote. Said, he said, I said, she said. What's up with that? So what do we do with that? Well, what's the emotion? What's the mood that's going on? How can we express emotion in one word? Check this out, y'all. Big difference, isn't there? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you got
That one word is so telling. It's full of meaning. Pay attention to that as y'all write, and if you use dialogue, okay? As far as the format, there is a certain way that I would like to see you handle dialogue. Did y'all grow up reading Nancy Drew mysteries? Girls read Nancy Drew mysteries, boys read Hardy Boys mysteries.
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, I had the whole collection of Hardy Boys. I don't know why, but I pulled this out of a Nancy Drew book. What was I doing with the Nancy Drew book? I don't know. But after the service was over, Mr. Drew said he would like to drive down to the waterfront, see what progress had been made on the new bridge. Check this out. It's like we're starting, when someone starts talking, do it, tab over like it's a new paragraph, okay? I like that. That keeps us straight on who's saying what. The railroad is going ahead with construction on the far side of the river, he told Nancy. She's gonna reply to him, so let's go down and tab over for her. Is the Horton property on this side, Nancy asked? He's gonna respond to that, so we tab over, yes, or we do paragraph. And I must get to the truth of this mixed up situation so that work can be started on this side too. See, there's some back and forth dialogue. This helps your reader understand the back and forth. Notice this in that last sentence, there is no he told Nancy, he said. Why? There's only two characters, there's back and forth, so the last one, we know he's saying that. Because it's paragraph down and tabbed on, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that with more than two characters, but I'm more about it's like you're starting a new paragraph every time somebody talks. That's okay. Y'all, personal narratives are so different than academic papers, okay? And that's okay. And you have creative license, right? All right, there was description, dialogue, and some key things to think about as you write, all right? Does everybody have their laptop with them? Or a phone? I would like to get your gut reaction to all this.
Mm-hmm.
Can, anybody wants to finish this up at home? That's cool too. Wait, week 2 visible. If you beat me there, you may have to reload. Personal narrative 3, 2, 1. If you don't see it, it's underneath the journal entry, I think. Yeah, it's underneath journal 2, it says personal narrative 3, 2, 1. If it's not open, you may need to reload. You may have beat me there before I opened it. Is it open? Yeah, it's visible. What are 3 key takeaways about what I just told you about the personal narrative? What are 2 things you found interesting, and what's 1 question you still have about personal narratives? You should have a submission box there. Just type it in the box. Okay. Submit it. Y'all, this is a minor assignment. You either do it or you don't. It's either 100 or nothing. Okay. But I want you to focus on what did you learn today? What did you pick up? Did everybody get a chance to sign in this morning?
Thank you.
Y'all don't overthink it. It's just what you just heard, what resonated with you. What did you latch on to? sorry, I didn't have the resources open. Anybody needs to look back at that analysis or the personal narrative slides, there they are. Hey, one other thing real quick, I had put this in there at one point, if anybody wants it, I don't know. Kind of went to ideas for the personal narrative based on this assignment. Personal experience with inequality. Family struggles, social, economic inequality, witnessing injustice in a global context. I don't know. That may be too foofy for us, I don't know. I'll open it, maybe it's helpful, just ideas. Okay. When you're done with this, just hit submit and you may go. Go into the world and do great things. No?
Do I have to?
No? I don't.
What are those books? Did you say Nancy Drew?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Are they Nancy Drew?
Nancy Drew Mysteries, yeah.
Nancy Drew Mystery.
Man, I thought everybody would just be so excited about this. Beats a research paper, doesn't it? Some of you are like, oh, I'd rather do a research paper.
Mm-hmm.